Hey guys, SimCoder here, and today we'll be starting on the profile of the user by allowing the user to view its own posts. So this is the easiest query that you can make in Firestore in order to fetch the posts of a user. Then in the next lessons we'll do the feed, but for now let's just display the user's posts as that's the easiest thing to do. We aren't, however, going to show the user's information at the moment, and this is because we still don't have the user information. This is something that we'll do in the next lesson. We'll allow the user to edit the profile and things like that, so yeah. So for now, let's do it. Before carrying on with the video, I just want to let you know that only around 20% of you guys are actually subscribed to this channel. So if you don't want to miss any single video in the future, be sure to subscribe and to hit the notification bell. Okay, so here we are, and the first thing that we are going to do is to go into Home and add a drawer to this widget. So a drawer is yet again something that you can add in your scaffold widget. If you come in here and do Control and hover over it, it will appear. Right now I'm having a bit of trouble getting to it. Okay, so in here you can see that we have a drawer. And this drawer allows you to basically slide from the left and a drawer will appear, which is like Twitter has in order to access the profile and things like that. And because we are going to create a profile, even though we are not going to do everything today, we are going to need it in order to access that profile and to add the logout button there, as it doesn't exist in the navigation bar. So that's a really simple thing to do, and let's take care of it right now. So below the floating action button, we are going to create a drawer. And this drawer will be of the type drawer, and we'll add that widget right now. Add the child, which will contain all of the buttons which will appear in the drawer. This is a list typically. And that's basically it. So in here, I'm going to collapse everything, and I'm going to, on the child, add a list view. This is a widget, yet again, which we'll be using also later on when we want to display the posts. But for now, we want this in order to display a list of titles. And this will be a list of buttons to take us to where we want to go, basically. And this list view will contain children. The children, again, are the list title, and a drawer header, which we'll also create in a second. So this will be of the type widgets. And in here, we are able to add whatever we want. But let's see when saving what appears. Yes, the drawer appears, and as you can see, it is already working. However, we can add a bunch of things. We can have, for example, a drawer header, which will allow us to give a bar up top above the list with the information on the user, for example, just like Twitter does. And I'll show you how it works right now. So for the child, it will be a text. Let's make it as simple as possible. And it will be drawer header. Then, and this indentation is a bit odd, but okay. We can have a decoration, which will simply add a color to it, a background color to it. And we say that the box decoration will be color and colors blue. This will simply add a backdrop to the drawer header. And now if we open it up, we see that we have a header in here, which typically is to display the currently logged in user's information. Okay, then below the drawer header, we obviously want to add buttons. In this case, it will be a widget of the type list title, which will have a title. In this case, it will be text profile, and it will have an on tap. Instead of on press, it is on tap, so that's what we must do in order to get this working. It will contain a function, which in this case will handle taking us to the profile page, which we can create right now. So navigator.push named, Just like we did in the previous lessons, it takes in a context and a route name. The route name of the profile will obviously be profile, and it will probably change in the future when we are able to search for users and go into other users' profile page, because we must pass along an ID as well. But for now, let's leave it as the simplest case possible, as it makes it easier to understand. Okay, so just push in profile. In the future, this will probably be changed. Then we are going to remove the sign out button from there because I really don't like it, and in Twitter it isn't there. It isn't also in the drawer, but a lot of apps go with the option of putting it in the drawer because it looks nice and it is reasonable to do that. So let's remove the navigator. In the profile, it is going to be logouts, and I'm going to come up top and simply grab the auth service sign out, which handles signing out, and we are able to remove actions from here, and that button will disappear, and it is just a title right now. So on tap, we are able to call auth service sign out, and remember this action is async. We did it in the first lesson when we actually implemented login. So if you have questions about this, please review that lesson. Okay, and now coming back, we see that we have both the profile and the logout. If we click the profile, nothing will happen because we don't have that route in our wrapper. So that's what we are going to take care of right now. We are going to create the profile page, and we are going to handle the routes and add these to the switch case that we already have in place. So in here, we are going to go into a main, and in main, we are going to add yet another folder, which will be called profile. And I'm going to add the profile folder because, well, you have a lot of screens that are related specifically to the profile, like the edit profile, the profile, and all of the items that come with them, all of the widgets, better yet. So profile, and let's add a new profile, which will be called profile.darts. Okay. Now this will be a stateful widget. Create that, call it profile, and don't forget to import material. So like that, and everything should be working right now. I'm going to add that, just a simple widget in the containers so that we can see that everything is working. So text, welcome to the profile. Okay. And there we go. We have our profile page just like that. By using snippets, it is really easy to create all of this boilerplate code. So coming into the wrapper, as I've said, we must add our new routes to our main routes. These will allow us to, again, go into side routes, and otherwise it would be useful because we wouldn't be able to reach it. This is because we are using named routes throughout the app. If you were to go the other way around, where you just pass along the class directly, then you wouldn't have an issue. But I really prefer named routes, as I believe it is easier to structure out the project and makes everything cleaner. Okay, so in here, the profile will be the route will be called profile, as I've already said, and then don't forget to add the profile and auto import it. Okay, then as you can see, it looks a bit nicer now, and we have already 3 routes, so we have 3 different screens. Okay, so now if you come in here and click it, it will say, welcome to the profile. It looks horrible, but yeah, it will look better in a second. Okay, so now what we are going to do is to actually do the query in order to fetch the user's posts. So for that, we are going to go into our services, and I'm going to remove all of these files because, we are not going to bother with the front-end code at the moment. We are just going to handle logic. So in the posts, we see that this is where we left it in the previous lesson. However, we also want to open up the models folder and add a new file, which will be called posts. And this will be a pretty similar class to user. So I'm actually going to grab it, paste it, and in here change the name for posts. Change that as well. However, it will have some different things because it will have more arguments. So let's think about what type of information we need for our posts. Well, each post will have an ID, that's for sure. Then each post will have a creator, and this will be the creator's ID. Then each post will have a text. At the moment, we just have text. We don't have any images or anything like that, or polls like Twitter has, but it has text, and so it must be a parameter. And it also has a timestamp. We have the date in which the tweet was created. So that's also important to have, so let's add it here. Then we would also have the like count, the chain of tweets and replies that comes after it, the amount of replies, things like that. But for now, let's keep it as simple as possible. So let's add all of that information in here. And I'm going to quickly do this and copy everything inside of this constructor. There we go. Now we have our post model, which is in its simplest form possible. So now we are able to go into our post service and actually handle writing some code. So what we are going to do is create a stream which will stream the information to wherever widget we want to display the information on. In this case, it will be on the profile page, but obviously we'll have a feed page, a feed widget also. So for now, it will be pretty simple, and then we'll abstract this function in the future so that we can use it in multiple places with just one query. Okay, so now we want a stream which will return a list of post models. Because remember, we want a list of all of the posts that the user has made. This will be called get posts by user, and it will take in a UID. It will take in a UID because, well, at the moment we are displaying the current user's post, which is quite obvious. We just have to get the current user's UID, so we wouldn't even need this UID. But if in the future we want to have this function return the post list of other users' profiles, when we go to other users' profile, then it has to be generalized and we must pass along the UID. Okay, don't forget to import post model, the quick fix for that, and there we go. Now it will be underlined because it isn't returning a stream list post model, but it will in a second. So we must return, and it will be quite simple, a Firebase Firestore, and let's handle the query right now. Firebase Firestore dot instance dot collection, and now we must remember what's the path to the posts that we have. In this case, we can actually go up top and grab it. So it is posts, as we can see, because this is the function that creates a post, so that's why I'm saying that. And then we are going to make a query. Well, with a query, if you aren't familiar with these terms, a query is simply a GET request basically to the database. This can be either more complicated or less complicated if you just want to get information, all the information available. But in this case, we want to restrict the information that's fetched to the post documents that have a creator which is equal to the UID. This is really important, obviously. So in order to make a query, we are going to use a where function in here, and we are going to say that the creator comma is equal to, and as you can see, you have a lot of parameters that you can pass in here. Is greater to, is greater than or equal to, is less than, is null, things like that. But in this case, we want the creator's ID to match the UID that's being passed along. So that's how we do it. Is equal to UID. Then we say snapshots And finally, we are able to map this information into an object or into a list or whatever we want. Whatever we want. We aren't restricted by any means. But in order to create in order to map this information, I'm going to create yet another function which will take in the snapshot that comes from this and returns a list of post models. So everything becomes really concise. So in this case, it will be a function that returns a list post model, and it will be called post list from snapshots. Okay, and it will take in a query snapshot, which is what is returned to us from this query. So this query snapshot will be called snapshots and open curly brackets. Okay, now let's give it some space, and in here we are going to say return snapshots dot docs dot map, and I'll explain this in a second, doc and open curly brackets. Okay, so now we'll be able to create an object from this document. What snapshot.docs.map does is it iterates through the snapshot.docs, which contains a list of all the posts, and it allows you to iterate through each and every single one of them and return an object, which will then replace the current object that exists, and then we are able to more easily control everything. If this isn't clear at the second, it will in a moment after we actually implement this. So we are going to return, as I've said, the post model, and we are able to decide which information from this iteration of the snapshot, which contains the document, which is a queried document snapshot, which information will be passed along and how it will be stored. In this case, it will be stored in a post model, as I've said, and it will contain the ID, which will be doc.id. Then it will have the text, which in this case, in order to fetch the information, because it is a query document snapshot, it will be like this. So doc.data, and then we pass along the name of the parameter that we are trying to fetch. In this case, it will be text. And we are able to do some cool stuff. If this information is null or undefined or whatever, we can simply say that it will be empty. And this is what this double exclamation mark means, with the empty quotes, empty string afterwards, obviously. Then we can create it yet again 2 times, add the creator, which will have the name creator, and I finally have timestamp, and add 0 at the end. 0 for the timestamp, if you don't know, is the date 1970. So it is when it first started, and for that reason, the 0 time, it's like after Christ and before Christ for technological equipments like smartphones, anything that uses Unix time, then it will be 1970. But that won't happen because the timestamp will always be retrieved. But you could change this into something else if you want. For now, I'm going to leave it at 0. Because I truly don't believe it is something that you should worry about at the moment. Okay, then we are able to, in here, add the semicolon, and finally we are going to say toList. This function simply creates a list from the contents of this iterable. So it contains the updated information that we get from here, and everything will look really nice. So let's grab the post list from snapshot and add it to the map. And as you can see, now the get post by user isn't underlined, and that's because when you map it like this, it will return automatically this this type, so the list post model, and it is exactly what we need. For this part, we are done. We are done fetching everything. We are able to close everything up. And we can go back to our profile page. So let's go in here, main, profile. Okay, there we go. And now what we are going to do is to, well, first of all, call up the post service, because we'll need to get the posts by user. So post service, auto import it, post service equals to post service. Awesome. Now we are going to, as we did, or similarly to what we did in the main.dart, where we had, in this case, a future builder, which expects something in the future. In this case, we'll have a stream provider, which will listen to, or better yet, make a request to the get post by user. And then when it is returned, both this widget and all of the widgets that come in its child tree will get that information, which in this case will be really useful. So we are able to remove this container, and this ugly text will finally disappear. Come in here and we say stream provider, and in this case it will be value, and the value will be post service dot get post by user, and now the UID will be firebase auth. We must get the UID of the current logged in user. So in this case, it is firebase auth.instance.current user.uid. Obviously, again, this will change in the future. For now, we are only able to go to our own profile. In the future, we'll be able to go to other users' profile. And in that case, we must add some things in here in order to abstract it. Okay, then you'll have the child, which contains the information that's actually displayed on screen, and it will be of the type scaffold. Open parentheses, there we go. And now I want to go to the line down below. Okay. Now, this scaffold, and let's just add the comma in here, okay? The semicolon in here. So this scaffold will just call up right now a widget which we'll create in a second, which will be called list posts. Right now, I'm not going to handle a lot of the profile because we'll leave that to the next lesson. We just want to display the posts of the user. So for that, we are going to come in here and say that the body will be of the type container, which will be a container, better yet. And this container will simply contain a child, which will be of the type list, which will be a widget, which we'll create in a second, called list post. It doesn't exist yet. So for now, let's create it. Go into posts, because it will be inside the post folder. And let's add it here. So list.dart. And in this list.dart, we'll create a stateful widget, which will be called list posts. Okay, save it, import the material package, and there we go. Now, yet again, like we did in the previous widget, we are going to simply add a text. In this case, it will be called list item. Okay, and now we should be able to import it, but it is giving some problems. Let's do it like this: lists, post, auto import. Okay, now it will work. Now these list posts will handling displaying all of the information to the screen, and that way we are able to refactor the code and make sure everything is in its place, everything is separated, so it makes it easier to organize the code and to look at code and to read code. Okay, so the app reloaded, and as you can see, the list item is hidden below the notification bar. Okay, but for now, let's not worry about that. What we want to do is to actually display the posts. So let's go into list. And in this case, we want to find, first of all, get the post that we got from our stream provider in here, which, remember, is passed along to each and every single child of these widgets, including the widget itself. So in order to fetch that data, we want to do is final posts equal to provider. And don't forget to auto import it, as this is a package, an external package of, and add the type of the information that we want to get, which will be, in this case, list, post model. Don't forget yet again to auto import it, and then get the context. If it doesn't exist, then simply return an empty array. There we go. And well, by mistake, it isn't here. It is in the widget build. So yeah, move it below. And if again, the provider returns an empty list or a null list, an undefined list, something goes wrong, then this list will simply be empty. Okay, so now, as I've said, we'll be using a list view yet again. It isn't just for this drawer. So this is where it comes in handy. Come in here, let's remove the container and actually add a list view. This list view will say list view.builder. This will give us the ability to pass along a list with posts and makes everything really clean and easy to work with. So we must pass along a couple of parameters. In this case, we must pass along item counts, which will be receive post dot length. Then we must pass along the item builder, which will actually handle showing each and every single item from this list. It will receive the context and the index. The index is, for example, the number of the item that we are looking at, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. This is a function which will, first of all, get the post, so final post equal to posts, and now we get from the index that we are on. So if you are looking at the first element of the post list, then we simply get that object from there. Don't forget the semicolon. I'm going to remove this. And then what this item builder expects is it expects us to return something, in this case, a widget. So we are going to return a list title. Let's keep it as simple as possible for the time being. And this list title will have a title, which will be of the type text, and we'll receive post.creator. I'm going to keep this as simple as possible. In the next lessons, we'll work upon this and add more information to it. And then a subtitle. So this will look kind of like a card view in Android if you are used to that, which will contain the text, which will be post.text. There we go. Then don't forget to add the semicolon at the end. And there we go. We have the information appeared from the post that we had already created. So let's go back and actually add yet another post just to see if everything checks out. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's tweet it. And let's go back to the profile. And that post appears. So yeah, that's great. This is our ID. So in this part, the user's information should appear. But for now, it is awesome. We are able to fetch the post of this user. And yeah, so in the next lesson, we'll work on editing the profile. Thank you all so much for watching. We now are allowing the user to view its own posts. So yeah, in the next lesson, we should be doing the edit profile action and all of that good stuff. So I hope to see you again tomorrow, and ciao.